Adam Warlock. You know him as one of Marvel's heaviest hitters in the cosmic scene, but his story, well, it's not exactly your typical superhero origin. It's a story about being created, and then being completely recreated. So, let's get into it and figure out how a nameless lab experiment became a full-blown cosmic savior.
Right, so this is the question at the heart of it all. How do you get from a being born out of some pretty dark ambition, with no identity to speak of, to a messiah with a divine purpose? The answer, it turns out, is one of the boldest retcons in comic book history, where a writer basically looked at the past and said, meh, let's do something completely different.
Okay, so to really understand the hero, we have to go back to the beginning, when he wasn't a hero at all. Our story starts not with Adam Warlock, but with this powerful, mysterious being known only as him. Now, this is something you just don't see very often, especially back then. In a really wild move, Marvel laid out his entire origin story in one issue before we even got to see the character in the next one. Talk about building anticipation for what was supposed to be the perfect being. So who was behind all this? A shadowy group of scientists called the Beehive. And let's be clear, their goal wasn't to better humanity. It was about pure, unadulterated power. They wanted to create the perfect artificial human to be the first of many in an army that would conquer the world. And him was their big shot. Their first and, spoiler alert, their last success. You know, maybe the Beehive should have thought this through a little more. Because the second him pops out of his cocoon, he takes one look around at his dad's and, well, let's just say he's not a fan. His very first act, he kills them all. Just like that. Then he just blasts off into space, this incredibly powerful being with absolutely zero direction.
And here's where it gets really interesting. A little behind-the-scenes secret. Originally, his co-creator Jack Kirby had this super high-minded concept for him. He was supposed to be a living, breathing symbol of objectivist philosophy. I mean, that's a pretty complex intellectual idea, and a far cry from the violent, aimless creature we actually got. But instead, editor Stan Lee streamlined the whole thing. He turned it into a much more classic, mad scientists create a monster kind of story. And look, that made it easier to digest, for sure, but it also left him as this powerful but totally empty shell. He was a blank canvas, just floating out there, waiting for someone else to come along and paint a real picture.
A couple of years go by, and him shows up again, just long enough to have a pretty forgettable fight with Thor. After that, he just pieces out, back into the void of space. At this point, he's basically a piece of trivia. A character with massive potential, just wasted. But that was all about to change in a big, big way.
So let's get to the main event. This is the moment a forgotten character gets one of the most radical makeovers in comics, transforming him from a weird footnote into an absolute legend. So it's 1972, and editor Roy Thomas is looking for his next big idea. He's inspired by this massive cultural moment, the rock opera Jesus Christ Superstar. It was everywhere, and Thomas saw a chance to tap into that zeitgeist. He brings him back from obscurity, gives him a proper name, Adam Warlock, and a completely new identity, a superhero messiah. Basically, a space Jesus for a new generation of comic fans. And this just lays it all out, doesn't it? The difference is night and day. On one side, you have him, no name, no direction, just a vague creation. On the other, you have Adam Warlock, a hero with a name, a divine mission, and a whole messianic destiny. It's not just a new coat of paint, it's a complete reinvention from the ground up. So if you're a freshly minted space messiah, where do you go? Well, you go to Counter-Earth. This place was a massive experiment by a godlike being called the High Evolutionary. His plan was to create a perfect, squeaky clean duplicate of Earth, a true paradise. But, as it usually goes in comics, things went south. Fast. Totally desperate, the High Evolutionary stumbles upon the cocoon of him just drifting through space. He cracks it open, wakes him up, gives him the name Adam Warlock, and, this is a huge deal, places the powerful soul gem right on his forehead. The mission is simple and direct. Go to Counter-Earth and clean up my mess. And this is where the story gets really wild, because Warlock's adventures on Counter-Earth aren't just about punching bad guys. It's a direct and completely intentional allegory for the life of Jesus Christ. The comic even sets the mood with language like this, right out of a parable. It perfectly frames the story.
The High Evolutionary is the creator, Counter-Earth is his Garden of Eden, and Adam Warlock is the one being sent in to pull out all the weeds of sin that have taken over. Of course, every good allegory needs a tempter, a devil figure. And for this story, that's the man-beast. He's this truly malevolent creature who has twisted this would-be paradise. So Warlock's job is clear: defeat this ultimate evil and restore Counter-Earth to its former glory. And the parallels to the biblical narrative here are, frankly, stunningly direct. Let's just walk through it. First, he gets a divine commission from a godlike father figure to save a fallen world. Check. Then he faces trials, temptation, betrayal, and even a selfless death. Check. But that's not the end. He gets a resurrection, reborn inside a cave, even stronger than before. And finally, after he vanquishes evil, he doesn't stick around to rule. He ascends back to the heavens, or in this case, space, his mission complete. It's the whole arc, beat for beat. So there you have it, the incredible two-part story of Adam Warlock. It really makes you think, doesn't it? Is a hero defined by where they come from or by the purpose they choose to accept? For Warlock, it was a purpose that was handed to him, one that took him from a forgotten monster and transformed him into a cosmic messiah.